Hey everyone, welcome back to Reliable Prepper. Today's topic is one that could completely redefine the future of our country: the increasing influence of international organizations like the United Nations and the World Health Organization. With the recent signing of the Pact for the Future, the shift towards global governance is no longer just a distant possibility, but a reality we need to face head-on. This isn't some abstract political move. It's something that could affect your daily life. We're talking about the possibility of UN peacekeepers patrolling American streets, global health mandates that override our national decisions, and even the potential for global surveillance. Our national sovereignty is on the line, and our personal freedoms may be at greater risk than ever before. Before we dig into this, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow Reliable Prepper on Facebook to stay informed about the issues that will impact you the most. Let's start by breaking down the Pact for the Future signed on September 22, 2024. This agreement has been marketed as a cooperative global effort to tackle climate change, pandemics, and economic inequality. However, once you peel back the layers, it becomes clear that this is more than just an effort to solve international problems. It's a shift towards centralized global governance. Under this pact, critical decisions impacting national health, the economy, and even military operations could be handed over to international bodies like the UN and WHO. These are organizations that aren't accountable to the American people, don't operate under the US Constitution, and could potentially override the authority of our elected officials. Take, for example, the power that the WHO would gain during global health crises. The organization would have the authority to enforce international health regulations, including mandatory vaccinations, quarantines, and travel restrictions. These mandates wouldn't be decided by local or national governments, but by a global health body that could issue regulations affecting billions of people around the world, including right here in the US. If you remember the COVID-19 pandemic, think about how local governments imposed lockdowns and restricted activities to combat the spread. Now imagine those measures being dictated by the WHO, with little to no input from the American government. The Pact for the Future gives the W.O. the potential to dictate not just how pandemics are managed, but how national health policies are shaped in the future. One of the most alarming possibilities under the Pact for the Future is the potential deployment of UN soldiers, commonly recognized by their blue helmets, on US soil. These peacekeepers are usually deployed in war-torn regions or countries experiencing extreme crises, but the Pact would allow them to be deployed in the United States during times of civil unrest, natural disasters, or national emergencies. Imagine foreign troops enforcing curfews, seizing firearms, or controlling checkpoints in American towns and cities. These soldiers operate under international law and global security mandates, not the US Constitution. This raises serious questions about who controls our rights and freedoms when these soldiers act on American soil. One case that has raised eyebrows is the establishment of UN compounds on US soil, such as the site in Utah, which is reportedly for diplomatic purposes. However, many Americans are questioning the true purpose of these compounds and whether they could be used for military operations in the future. Think about it. What happens if UN troops are ordered to enforce global disarmament mandates or prevent protests deemed to conflict with international peacekeeping efforts? The Second Amendment, which guarantees Americans the right to bear arms, could be overridden in the name of global disarmament efforts. Your right to protest could also be limited if it doesn't align with global peacekeeping policies. Once we allow foreign troops to police our streets, it's hard to imagine a scenario where we regain our full sovereignty. Let's dig into the role of the World Health Organization in this new global governance structure. Under the Pact for the Future, the W.H.O. will have unprecedented powers to manage global health emergencies. The next time a pandemic strikes, whether it's worse than COVID-19 or not, the W.H.O. could dictate the global response, including how the US handles the crisis. Consider the implications. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw governments impose lockdowns, enforce vaccination mandates, and introduce digital health passports. Under the WHO's new authority, these decisions wouldn't be made by our elected officials. They'd be made by a global body, and it doesn't stop there. The WHO could mandate the use of global digital health passports to track citizens' vaccination status, travel history, and even social interactions. Failure to comply could result in being denied access to public spaces, jobs, or even basic services. What's particularly concerning is the possibility of these mandates being enforced not only by local law enforcement but also by UN peacekeepers. Imagine being forced into quarantine or lockdown, not by your state government, but by an international organization with no accountability to American citizens. The loss of control over our health policies is just the beginning. Once the W.H.O has the power to manage global health, what's stopping them from expanding into other areas of public policy? It's easy to see how individual medical freedoms could erode in the name of global health security. Another key part of the Pact for the future is the Global Digital Compact, which introduces new forms of technological control. The United Nations and its partners will have greater authority to regulate digital platforms, artificial intelligence, and data usage. This could lead to an era of global surveillance where international bodies have the power to monitor and track nearly every aspect of our lives. Imagine living in a world where your online activity, from what you post on social media to what you purchase, is tracked by an international organization. This could soon be a reality. AI-powered surveillance systems and data collection algorithms could monitor behavior that doesn't align with the global agenda. For instance, algorithms could flag social media posts that are deemed harmful or out of alignment with global narratives, and these posts could be removed or flagged. Beyond censorship, AI could also be used to enforce global mandates, such as tracking climate impact or monitoring compliance with health policies. And it's not just about online activity. The Global Digital Compact opens the door to digital currencies controlled by international banks. These currencies wouldn't be like the cryptocurrency or cash we use today. Programmable digital currencies could be designed to control what you're allowed to buy, where you can spend your money, or even how much of it you're allowed to save. In such a world, if your actions don't align with global standards, your digital assets could be frozen, or worse, your access to essential services could be restricted. This would give international bodies an immense amount of power over our financial independence. Big tech will likely play a pivotal role in enforcing global mandates under this governance system. Companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon already control significant parts of our digital lives, from data collection to communication platforms. Under the Pact for the Future, these companies could be tasked with enforcing global policies, controlling what content is allowed, and sharing user data with international bodies. Right now, tech companies are already deeply involved in censorship, deciding which voices are allowed to be heard on platforms like YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. But this could go further. These corporations could use their algorithms to monitor what users are saying, buying, and sharing, flagging anything that doesn't comply with global regulations. For example, if you post content that doesn't align with United Nations climate goals or health policies, you could be silenced or even deplatformed. But beyond online censorship, big tech could be responsible for implementing digital currencies, social credit systems, and even health tracking. In the near future, tech companies could become the gatekeepers of the global economy, controlling who has access to digital services, financial systems, and even employment opportunities. If big tech aligns with global governance, they will hold unprecedented control over your daily life. These corporations already have massive influence over the way we communicate, shop, and consume information. Under global governance, this influence could extend far beyond social media platforms and e-commerce. We are looking at the possibility of a future where tech giants are responsible for monitoring compliance with global policies, including climate mandates, health regulations, and social norms. For instance, Amazon might be responsible for restricting the sale of products that don't meet global sustainability goals. Google could be tasked with limiting search results to content that supports the official global narrative. And Facebook could ensure that only certain voices, those that align with global initiatives, are amplified. This isn't just about controlling what we see and hear. It's about surveillance on a level we've never seen before. Data collection will go far beyond what we're already experiencing. In the wrong hands, this data could be used to manipulate behavior, control spending habits, and limit freedom of speech. The potential for abuse is staggering when you consider that these companies are already some of the most powerful entities on the planet. Adding global governance into the mix only strengthens their control. In addition to technological surveillance, we need to discuss the growing trend of digital IDs and social credit systems. This might sound far-fetched, but it's already happening in countries like China, where citizens are monitored and scored based on their behavior. The Pact for the Future could bring this concept to a global scale, forcing all citizens to adopt a universal digital ID. A digital ID wouldn't just hold your name and basic information. It could track your financial transactions, medical history, social interactions, and even your compliance with global regulations. This is where the social credit system comes in. If you fail to adhere to global health mandates, climate regulations, or even behavioral standards, your social credit score could be affected. A low score could result in being denied access to basic services like healthcare, transportation, or even employment. In a cashless society, this system could also determine how much digital currency you're allowed to use, or whether you can make certain purchases. This kind of behavioral control would give global institutions unprecedented power over your personal life. We're already seeing the early stages of this in various countries. For example, China's social credit system monitors citizens' behavior, and those who don't meet the government's standards face penalties, including restricted access to loans, education, and even travel. If this model goes global, it could affect every single aspect of our lives, from how we live to where we can go. The Pact for the Future also pushes for significant financial reforms, particularly the adoption of digital currencies. On the surface, this might seem like a way to streamline the global economy and promote transparency in transactions. But the reality is much more troubling. If digital currencies become the norm, physical cash could become a relic of the past. And with it, our financial independence could disappear. Digital currencies, unlike cash, can be programmed and controlled by the entity that issues them. In a global governance structure, this would mean that your access to money could be limited based on your behavior, social credit score, or compliance with international mandates. For example, if you're not following environmental or health guidelines, you could find your digital currency restricted or even frozen. Even more concerning is the potential for expiration dates on digital currencies. Under a global economic system, the International Monetary Fund or other financial institutions could decide that your digital money expires if you don't spend it within a certain period, forcing you to use your funds in ways that align with global economic strategies. Saving for the future may no longer be an option in such a system. We've already seen early experiments with this type of control in countries like China, where digital currency is being integrated with their social credit system. Citizens who do not meet government standards may find their digital wallets restricted, limiting their ability to access basic goods and services. Another major focus of the Pact for the Future is the global push to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. On the surface, this may sound like a step in the right direction for environmental protection, but the methods proposed under this global initiative could severely restrict personal freedoms. Achieving net zero emissions would require strict controls on energy consumption, particularly in areas where renewable energy options aren't yet viable. Under global mandates, individuals could be restricted in how much energy they use, and fossil fuels could be heavily taxed or banned altogether. For those living in rural areas who rely on gas-powered vehicles or generators, this could be devastating, but it doesn't stop with energy consumption. International bodies could impose limits on water usage, agricultural practices, and resource management. For example, you could be restricted in how much water you're allowed to use, or what crops you're permitted to grow. This would give global organizations control over essential resources, overriding local needs and conditions. In times of crisis, these resources could be rationed, and access could be determined by global priorities rather than local or national interests. If you think about it, this means that a bureaucrat in a distant international office could decide whether you have enough water or food for your family, all in the name of climate protection. Given the level of control proposed under the Pact for the Future, it's easy to see how this could spark civil unrest. Americans are fiercely protective of their freedoms and individual rights, and any imposition of global mandates, especially those that override U.S. laws, could trigger significant resistance. For many, the thought of unelected global bodies making decisions about their daily lives is an unacceptable infringement on their sovereignty. If citizens start pushing back against these regulations, whether it's due to economic restrictions, health mandates, or disarmament policies, the situation could escalate quickly. In such cases, it's entirely possible that UN peacekeepers could be deployed to maintain order. This isn't just a far-off possibility. The UN already has peacekeeping forces stationed in various parts of the world, and reports have surfaced of UN compounds already being established in the US, such as the one in Utah. Here's where things get particularly concerning. These foreign troops wouldn't operate under US law or be beholden to our constitutional rights. Their mission would be to enforce global mandates, and that could mean putting down protests, enforcing curfews, or even seizing firearms under the guise of international security. These measures would be executed under international law, meaning your Second Amendment rights and your right to protest could be limited or ignored. This type of situation could quickly spiral into serious conflict. If certain states or local governments resist these mandates and refuse to comply, we could see a fractured country, with some areas falling under international control while others fight back. This could lead to violent clashes between UN peacekeepers and American citizens, sparking unrest on a scale we haven't seen before. Such instability would create a deeply divided and unstable situation, potentially putting the country at risk of long-term chaos. Okay, now that we've dug into the growing influence of the UN, the W.H.O, and the possible future of global governance, let's talk about how you can prepare. While we can't predict exactly how things will play out, there are steps you can take right now to secure your independence and freedom. First and foremost, focus on building strong relationships within your local community. In times of crisis or unrest, your neighbors and local networks will be your lifeline. Whether it's sharing resources like food and water or lending a hand with security, these local bonds will be key. The more self-reliant your community is, the less vulnerable you'll be to global mandates or disruptions in supply chains. Start by getting to know your neighbors, discussing skills you can exchange, and even working together on preparedness plans. Communities that stick together are far less likely to rely on external systems when times get tough. Another important step is to diversify your financial resources. With the increasing talk of digital currencies controlled by central banks or international organizations, cash may not always be the fallback it once was. Consider alternatives like precious metals, gold, silver, or even items that hold barter value in uncertain times, like ammunition, tools, and non-perishable goods. These could be crucial if global financial systems tighten control or restrict certain transactions. The goal here is to maintain as much financial independence as possible. That way, if the shift to digital currencies becomes a reality, you'll have other assets to rely on that aren't tied to centralized systems. Self-sufficiency is another key focus. If we see increasing restrictions on energy or resources, being able to provide for your own needs will be more important than ever. Look into ways to reduce your dependence on the grid, whether that's through solar power, water storage, or growing your own food. Even small steps like setting up a rainwater collection system or learning how to preserve food can make a huge difference in an emergency. And don't underestimate the value of learning practical skills, whether it's first aid, gardening, or self-defense. The more you can do for yourself and your family, the better prepared you'll be for whatever comes. Finally, stay informed. Knowledge is power, and staying up to date on what's happening both locally and globally will help you make better decisions. Join online forums, follow reliable sources, and keep learning. But also remember, it's not just about consuming information. It's about being critical of what you hear. Pay attention to what's really happening around you, and don't get caught off guard by the noise. With all the misinformation out there, it's vital to stay sharp and prepared. So, what does all of this mean for us? The Pact for the Future isn't just about solving global issues, it's about shifting power to international organizations like the UN and W.H.O, and that could seriously affect the freedoms we enjoy in the US. We've looked at how foreign troops could end up on American soil, how digital currencies could control what you can buy, and how global mandates could override our own laws. The reality is, this shift could bring about a future where our national sovereignty is diminished and decisions are made by global bureaucrats, not by elected officials accountable to us. That's something we need to be aware of and understand as it unfolds. Thanks for sticking with me through this important conversation. If you want to stay informed on these critical issues, make sure you follow Reliable Prepper on Facebook and hit that subscribe button. There's more vital information coming your way. and you won't want to miss it. Stay safe, stay informed, and as always, stay prepared.